Ransomware is a tool of the nation states. Why? Ransomware embarrasses major brands. When something happens in cybersecurity, we'll say things like, well, what was the server wearing when it was attacked? Costs are coming down, right? At the end of the day, bad guy threat actors are beholden to the same laws of economics as everyone is, right?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fraud Boxer. Today, I have a treat for you all. We're jumping into the cybersecurity world, and I have Adam Darrah here with me from ZeroFox. How are you doing today?
It's cool to be here, Jordan. Thank you so much. Really good.
You are currently the Vice President of Intelligence, which sounds very sophisticated. So can you tell me a little bit about you and what that means?
That's great. I am highly sophisticated, and it is a super cool title. My title before this was like super cool. It was the Senior Director of Dark Ops. That sounded like really super cool, but VP of Intelligence is awesome. What that means is that I oversee intelligence in the real and cyber world, meaning from intelligence collection to collection of artifacts to bring into customers, and all the way through to finished intelligence, up to and including our human intelligence, our human-enabled operations that happen in the dark web, where we get to know people and we take advantage of their access to help out the good guys.
So how did you get there? Like, what was your journey like to get there so far?
I lived a version of a childhood dream. I came into this business through the government. So for 8 years, I had the honor and privilege of serving in the CIA. My 8 years there, I worked entirely against the Russian portfolio. So I was a Russia and Russian specialist my whole time, an analyst, and I spent a couple years as something called a targeter. Targeting in short, there are two types of targeting that the U.S. government allegedly does.
Allegedly, I love that. Allegedly.
Allegedly does. One form of targeting is to find out where a bad guy is and to make something happen in the vicinity of a bad guy, right?
Okay.
The other type of targeting is to orchestrate a coincidence where somebody important has access to information that the United States government deems as critical. And so we orchestrate a beautiful play, a beautiful tapestry where they naturally begin cooperating and tell us things we want to know and we need to know.
That is, so all the movies are true. Like these things really happen.
100%.
Have you watched there's the Netflix show with a kid that like he's like an analyst, like a lawyer for the CIA, and he just keeps getting dropped into all these missions, and everything goes sideways like every single time, and he keeps saying, "I'm a lawyer."
Yeah, so that it's almost true. So like the agency would cringe at the thought of an analyst like handling a weapon or being brought in to like talk to a human asset or like, regardless, like it would make the agency cringe, like all the jokes about nerds versus jocks and everything. So it's the terminology that they use on that is true, but like the situations I wish were true, but unfortunately they're not.
That's so funny. So how did you transition out of CIA intelligence into this level of intelligence of private sector and helping merchants like myself like not get screwed every day?
Well, that's even cooler. Like this is going to sound even more like a movie, right? So I'm literally walking down the halls of the agency, and a person approaches me who was transitioning out into the Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And she goes, "Hey, I got this tip that somebody wants somebody that does really weird things, and it's like almost exactly what you do now. Can you help me find someone that does what you do?" And I'm like, throw my hat in the ring. Me, please. Look, like I consider myself one of the luckiest people on planet Earth. I have beautiful children. I have a beautiful wife. I have a really super cool job. I live in a great country. I just like, I pinch myself every day. But at this particular time, it's amazing that these coincidences happen. As a matter of fact, when I first heard about it, my first thought was, this is exactly what I would do to somebody that I wanted to recruit. I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta check this out. So I did a very delicate dance with this wonderful private U.S. organization. It was called InfoArmor. I credit them with a lot of my success outside of government. I had a great mentor there. And so, yeah, here I am. My name was passed to them through agency contacts, out of pure coincidence. And here I am. I'm very thankful.
I always love when people actually credit a job for providing them with those opportunities like that, because so many people, like in the Silicon Valley, especially, it's like a job is a job. It's like, it just is what they do. And people, and especially companies that develop their people to get to another level, I always appreciate those companies. And I love when people speak fondly about companies that have done that for their career development, professional development, that sort of thing. So tell me a little bit about ZeroFox, if you could.
Yeah.
So I believe like you were at was it a different company that became ZeroFox, or how was that? And then tell me about what ZeroFox is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So ZeroFox cut its teeth and led the industry in reputational protection, right? Impersonations, reputation, brand protection. So, if an executive was being impersonated on social media, ZeroFox, led the industry in giving the good guys a fighting chance against that plague, right? Against that type of fraud. Because it happens all the time. And there are lots of wonderful companies that do this now, and we still can't seem to get ahead of it, right? It's just, it's overwhelming. Yep. So that's where ZeroFox really cut its teeth. And then about 5 years ago, ZeroFox made a decision. We want to become a cyber threat, a fully functioning, grown-up, external threat, cyber intel focused company. And so I was part of an acquisition. I used to work for a company called Vigilante. It was an Allstate. It was under the Allstate family, the Allstate insurance company and family. Yeah, great company. And then ZeroFox purchased that entity within that family of companies. And I came over and we brought the human intelligence factor, the deep and dark web intelligence kind of focus on fraud, fraud emanating from the dark web versus not just from social media, not just from let's call it the civilized or clear internet, which is not civilized and it's still kind of weird and murky. But it's more civilized, shockingly, than where we play. So that's how I got into it. And ZeroFox has been very good to me and to the threat community. Yeah, I feel very privileged.
In full disclosure, my company, my day job, does use you guys, and we were very happy with the product.
Oh, cool! So, thank you.
That's how we got here. Actually, I was expanding some of the usage of our ZeroFox account, and this came up, and here we are having a good conversation now.
Oh, it's great.
So I brought you here today because you guys have just released something. It's called Security Predictions and Recommendations, the 2026 Key Forecasts and 2025 Conclusions. So basically a threat report that you guys have just released to the wild, and we wanted to discuss it today. So how does that sound?
That sounds great, man. I appreciate it. Buckle up.
Yeah. So we're going to spend a little bit of time. We have, I believe, five key areas here that we're going to talk about. And let's dive right in. So the first one, I think we have to talk about Gen AI. I think it's just required by law.
It is.
So you guys have put out a bunch of information about Gen AI and what fraud actors and threat actors are using Gen AI, because we use it to make funny pictures and post LinkedIn posts for us every single day, so we don't have to do that. And I use it to make summaries for the show because I don't like listening to my voice. But you guys have come up with a bunch of different things that it's doing, like synthetic media and those sorts of things. So can you run me through a little bit of what you guys are seeing in 2025 and what you think 2026 is going to look like for specifically Gen AI in this space, not in just the world, but in this space?
Jordan, in keeping on the theme of what we're supposed to say by law about Gen AI, it's scary. It's not good. It's only bad. It's only scary.
It's ruining all. We're all going to be out of jobs.
Everything.
We're never going to exist anymore.
Correct.
We're going to live in AI.
That's it. Yeah. So, check. We box check that. So Gen AI is definitely here. I know it's the cool thing to talk about. All the cool kids are talking about it, and maybe the not so cool kids like me are also now talking about it. But we really started to see a transition in at least in the criminal communities, right? I'm not talking when I say criminal communities, I'm talking about specifically deep and dark web actors, the way that they're viewing this. So nation states view it differently. Criminal gangs that are running these elaborate, extortionists extortion rings with the fake kidnappings and the fake videos and the fake voice, extorting high net worth individuals out of money, scaring them into thinking they've, my goodness, abducted their loved one, right? So you have like the organized crime rings getting involved with this. Nation states, North Korea is like crushing it. They're crushing it in this space. With getting a job at a Western company to support the regime, to circumvent sanctions, right? So like the North Koreans are
in the news.
Yeah, it's happening, right? It's happening. Some of the biggest brands on planet Earth are setting up task forces to deal with this, right? So it's a big deal. And that is an organization like a nation state that has access to almost unlimited resources. They're motivated to keep the regime financed, propped up, properly gifted with money and means and stuff. So what we're seeing is it's kind of like in 2025, what we saw mainly was, hey, we want to embarrass somebody? Contact me. I will make an embarrassing video, no problem. I would
say your Russian accent is spot on. It's definitely all that Russian education stuff that you had there.
And CIA training, probably actually training not to get me to talk like that when I was joking around at work. So, Adam, that's offensive. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Is it?
I don't know. I feel like it's not offensive. But so, now what we're seeing is that the cost associated with creating this content, costs are coming down, right? At the end of the day, bad guy threat actors are beholden to the same laws of economics as everyone is, right? I stop at red lights. I use my blinker. I pay my taxes. I even kind of fully stop at a stop sign, right? Like law-abiding people are beholden to economic realities. Well, so are threat actors, right? And so, frankly, to host to the computational power of AI's costs are high, but they're going down. And so 2025 was like, oh yeah, I can make funny pictures. I can like prank call people, whatever, right? Now it's maturing, right? Now we're getting into like, hey, we can basically you can hit a button, like input a target, hit a button, my machine will do the rest. Okay. Like we can discover, we can automatically exploit that unpatched thing, that unpatched vulnerability. What do you want to return? I can do it. Right. So, the tooling is low cost, high reward. Okay. Moreover, we're now seeing them go from that. And now they're using AI to become more human-like, to bypass spam filters. So social engineering is taking on a whole new different level of believability, right? Gone will be the days of like the bad, clearly non-native English email, like for glorious click here button money I need, right? Or something, right? Those days are almost behind us in the rearview mirror, right? Now they're not only trying to trick a person, they're trying to trick the machines that are put in place to keep people safe. And
we've seen just even on the Gen AI side, on some of the models that we've run, we've seen it switch user agents on its own to try and get around things. We've seen it go and on its own sign up for newsletters in order to get discounts, like without being prompted. Like it's doing things that fraud people used to actually do by hand. It's figuring out in seconds and doing it. It's getting, like, to your point, it's getting past CAPTCHAs. It's getting past any sort of like hurdle in the way in order to get it. Basically doesn't take no for an answer, and it will find a way. And that is scary. But to your point, like most of the stuff that we see for like SMS and everything, like in the pig butchering romance scams, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's like the natural conversations where it used to be, oh, look at this funny email I got from this Nigerian prince. Like, they think it's like, they think they're being funny, but now it's perfect. It's like exactly perfect. And if you reply, their reply back will also be perfect, because they can translate, they can put it in natural language, like for whatever Western United States, Eastern United States, and it's crazy how fast it happened. And people fall for it more than ever. Gen Z too.
How dare you? They're so literate about that kind of stuff, and not lonely at all. Not at all. So yeah, that you bring up a good point. We have clients whose images are being used. I mean, I heard a really sad story 3 weeks ago where I was speaking with someone who was dealing with a situation where this individual had worked for a VIP of sorts in the United States government, and an earnest, really sweet, kind probably educated U.S. citizen reached out and said, hey, I hope so-and-so got back to the United States okay. I just sent them $5,000 yesterday to help them get home from this NATO conference. And it's like, wait, what? And he's ghosted me ever since. He's ghosted me, and I just want to make sure he's okay.
He's like sitting right next to you.
I'm like, and so it's like, well, yeah. So you're right. Like, it's getting good. And it's like, that's the bad side of machines that like scare me, that they can like take advantage of that loneliness or that need that we all have to connect, no matter how introverted we think we all are. Like, we don't need anybody. We do get lonely, and we do crave like that connection. And so, yeah, the AI robots are going to take advantage of that. And so, yes, it is happening. It's here. And cybersecurity is different than like the real world, right? What I mean by that is when something bad happens in the real world, we don't ask questions anymore. Let me just be clear. Anymore, we don't ask questions like, well, what time were you out? Like, we don't victim shame when something bad happens, right? We're like, we don't say, well, when something happens in cybersecurity, we'll say things like, well, what was the server wearing when it was attacked?
It was its fault for its open ports.
Correct. It's if those ports were patched appropriately and not out at midnight, right? So, it's a weird industry that we're in. There's this saying in the Beltway of Washington, D.C., there's no such thing as there's only like intelligence failures and policy successes, right? So, in cybersecurity, there's no such thing as a security success. It's like it's a corporate success, but if something bad happens, security failed. That's what happened. Security failed,
So right before we move on to the next part, you guys have a prediction in 2026 will be hybrid uses to exploit all this stuff. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that? I think you kind of did there a little bit. So
hybrid use cases would be something like, the AI does all the discovery, and then it's handed off to a human to do the business side of things, handed off to the human to continue the relationship, to continue the hands-on keyboard exploitation of whatever it is, whether it be a social media, whether it be like a social engineering attempt or an extortion attempt. The AI does all the hard work. It saves you hours and hours and hours of discovery, and then hands it off to a human. Like, you take it from here. We need somebody that can, answer a phone call or whatever.
Yeah. And, I had some guests on the show that were actively working against some of these, like the scam centers and stuff that are like in Miramar and all that. But they're starting to kidnap or traffic actual girls because they will do the proof of life type video with an actual real person, because we're also leery of like the actual AI stuff to an extent too. So they like literally have them in these compounds upstairs. They go up, say, hand on the phone, say, tell so-and-so hi, that you're doing great and you can't wait to meet them. And then they take the phone back and go back down and continue the conversation, it's super sad that it's even come that far to that,
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. That really is absolutely heartbreaking.
Not to be Jordan Downer on the conversation, but it's wild how like the AI is taking it up to a certain point, and then they are doing the hybrid approach with the actual human to you take it from here, which is having a lot more downstream effects. Yeah. I'm going to leapfrog one of our sections, and we'll come back to it in a little bit.
Sure.
But it's a natural progression to talk about scamming then, and talk about romance scams, pig butchering. But where I wanted to start with that, specifically in your report, as you guys have a big emphasis on social engineering. And I think that is always the weakest link. And you just said, like, your whole thing that you just said about like the saying in DC, it seems like it's getting worse on the social engineering because of the Gen AI stuff. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys have in the report about like, social engineering, phishing, corporations being targets, those sorts of things, if you could.
Absolutely. So social engineering is never going away.
Never,
ever. It is, we sometimes turn our noses up at it because like people that eat, sleep, and breathe it think, well, if I know so much about it, it's so obvious. How come it's not so obvious to everyone? Which is it's a scary trap to fall into. So it's not going away. It's here to stay, and it's only going to keep getting better in terms of believability.
Yeah.
They're going to, again, like the AI is doing a lot of the hard work on the front end so that a person doesn't have to make decisions. And so, and social engineering, especially in the today's geopolitical environment as well, is, like, and some even ransomware groups decided to pivot away from like the actual like holding hostage of the data, hands on keyboard, to tricking someone into a password, or tricking people instead, right? It was because it works, right? And so, social engineering still represents an overwhelming majority of attacks.
Yeah.
It's going to continue through 2026 and beyond because it works. Yes, corporations are getting smarter in terms of like education and stuff, but we spend a half hour a year on educating a workforce and mandating things. These people spend, hours and hours a day on perfecting their craft. And again, like, I want to be very careful here. Humans are the answer to all of our own problems. I don't like to victim blame, victim shame. We are the answer. But unfortunately,
we are also the weakest link.
We are a weak
We're
link.
the vector.
There's a vector, and it's usually through our hearts or our busy lives, right? Like,
and that's why romance scams work. Like, to your point, like you've come back to it a couple of times, is like being lonely. Like, is you put a lot of guards down when you're lonely. And I think it's, to your point on education and the workforce, like, we have our phishing emails that get sent out, like anti-phishing emails. They test us, all the time. But I see them come in on even like the podcast emails and stuff, the PayPal invoices, those sorts of things. Pay this, you forgot to pay this, a LifeLock, like I'd ever pay for that. But they're getting a lot better. And I have to blame the Gen AI that we just talked about for that, because they could basically clone a login page, and make it look completely real. Oh, there's a bit of problem with your password. Click here to reset your password. And it's just the urgency. Like, the episode I just put out has a law enforcement officer from Las Vegas who works in cyber intelligence, and trying to prevent romance scams and getting money back. And, Las Vegas is always going to be, people are vulnerable there because, they just lost all their money on a slot machine. So there's some crazy stuff. But to your point, that's coming up next on this, is the businesses, the corporations seem to be a big target these days. And I have seen it happen at not in my this company now, but in the past at a company where it was an email that came in with a convincing invoice. Pay this invoice. They overrode. They convinced them to override the internal checks to send. At the time it was $50,000. But the law enforcement episode I just had, he was telling me the same story on there about how they convinced this guy to give $1.1 million in cash in a box to a FBI agent in a parking lot, and that's how convincing it got. So, I mean, it's the urgency, it's the creating the fear and the panic, and that there's only like no way to get out of it. So that's what like his whole thing was, like, slow down, stop, think about it for a second. Does this seem right? Does it seem real? Because a lot of times they'll ring you up and say your son's in jail. I need you to give me $10,000 in Google gift cards right now to get him out of jail. And
don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. We'll know.
Don't even call the front desk. Yeah. Don't even do it. So I think that's crazy, is like how it's just getting in there, and more on the deepfake audio, deepfake video. I think everybody's pretty aware of that stuff by now. But in your guys' report, basically, it's getting worse. It's just getting more prevalent because AI.
And the barrier to entry is lowering, right? So you don't have to be like super good, super capable, super accomplished threat actor to do this. The tooling is cheaper. So if you want to try your hand at being awful in this arena to see if you like it or not, dip your toes in, you can.
And young kids are doing it too, which is a little crazy.
It is a lot of crazy.
So since we mentioned some of the places where some of these scams originate from, we're going to have to dip our toe into geopolitical.
Yeah.
So can you run me through what you guys are seeing as far as geopolitical changes in this particular report?
Yeah. So
this is a tricky one.
It's tricky. It's tricky. It's all in the news. It is another interesting thing that's here to stay. I think it became part of the modern, like, Western parlance after the 2016 elections, right? Election meddling, all the operations to change people's minds. You have misinformation, disinformation, right? All these things that were only like spoken in where I used to work. Like we only used to talk like that. Now, like, everybody talks like that.
That's interesting to me right there. That comment is super interesting to me.
We're seeing some intentional or otherwise, like, outmaneuvering of some of our adversaries, right? Specifically, Russia, Ukraine. Let's talk about Russia, Ukraine really quick in that vein. So the United States is on the one hand still providing lethal material support to Ukraine, right?
Yes.
At the same time, the United States is also handing over more logistical, political responsibility for the war to Europe.
Yep.
Right. And at the same time is reasserting kind of its dominance in the Western Hemisphere, North and South America.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the things that we find interesting, is that the Venezuela tensions, a lot of our adversaries have used Venezuela as an entry point into this hemisphere for corruption purposes, for circumventing sanctions, to fly a certain flag, to avoid paying certain things, to smuggle things that aren't allowed to be smuggled between continents or within the continent or at all. And so that's disruptive to our adversaries who are trying to find a beachhead militarily, energy-wise, to have a cooperative partner in the hemisphere where the United States feels like it has its like area of influence, right? So, so tensions, Russia, Ukraine, unfortunately, is going to continue to be just like like a World War I style, like just a few feet of here, a few feet there, as Europe and United States kind of renegotiate the terms of support. Russia, U.S., China. I think this is tensions, around trade and support to Taiwan are likely to continue, and they're going to rise through 2026. We'll see how that goes. I don't know that we're going to see a bang pew pew conflict, but
so I think what was super interesting, and like I want everybody to know, like we're not taking sides or saying one thing's right or wrong the other way. We're just literally talking about the facts of what's happening in the world. And your guys' report, which I think is dead on personally, not with all of my vast intelligence, is that these states, like these nation states, are going to be targeting not military installations so much anymore, but try and disrupt these other nations in the banking sector, like the economic sector, like disrupt other pieces to try and sow discontent in those countries, not militarily, which will destabilize and cause problems. Like we've seen what the downstream effects just in what's been projected on the US in the last few elections, and like what that means and how that just sowing like distrust in those sorts of things can cause a lot of problems. And imagine if these countries, but don't imagine because it's happening, start doing it everywhere in the world. And then imagine if you can't go to your bank and withdraw your money because your bank's under a cyber attack from one of these countries that doesn't want to play nice anymore. And that could really influence like Western elections, not in the U.S. even, but even in Europe, or because I mean they have elections too, And I think that's super interesting. Like you guys specifically say, targeting banking to disrupt wages and the ability to buy food and deal a psychological blow in there. Which that one line really resonated with me when I was going through your guys' report. So what happens is like, oh, so it works, right? As a way to weaponize economics and undermine the trust in a government. And it's like society. And secondly, it says, oh, we should probably have our own homegrown like thing that is so that is what I think was sometimes when we set sanctions in certain ways, I think we might underestimate the other side and what their abilities like technically are able to do. Like when we say we're going to shut off all your banking and shut off that's Visa, MasterCard, and those guys, to your point, like, okay, we're big enough and we're sophisticated enough that we could just make our own network, and both of those countries can do that. And they did do that. And they did the same thing. Like it's a kind of a lame example, but like McDonald's pulled out of the country like overnight. And then they're just like, we'll make our own McDonald's, like McTurnip over there. And then all of a sudden those are all everywhere now and selling the same type of product. It is interesting to see how they adapt to that. And then
for the record, it's been a slow pivot east for over a decade in Russia. Russia has known its vulnerabilities. They're very much aware of them, and they've been, whether you believe something long enough that you just start acting a certain way, then all of a sudden that thing becomes a reality because you just think about it all the time. They are obsessed with the West, thinking like they operate under the assumption that for some reason the United States wants to dominate Russia and wants to like take their shit.
I don't think that we do. I swear on this all the time.
Okay. Well, so they actually believe that as a matter of state policy, as a matter of like everyday conversation.
Really?
Like, this is something they genuinely think is the end goal, which is United States wants to dominate, has imperial designs over Russia, which is like, to me, it's like, if they really only knew that we don't.
Yeah.
And so they've known they're vulnerable to the political winds. They're vulnerable to how the winds blow, and that they're heavily reliant on Western technology, Western firms, Western specialists. And so there's been a slow look east to integrate more east, and which is, again, historically, they don't get along too well either. And so I
would feel like China's more likely to take my shit than the US is to take my shit.
And that's objectively true. Like, that's exactly objectively true, right? It is a stated policy of the Chinese government to steal technology and to nationalize it renationalize it in China, right? Like it's like no secret. So yeah, and so yes, sanctions are a two-edged sword. We, the United States, when we do impose sanctions, we take a risk. It's a calculated risk. These are very, very wonderful, smart people that in the background that are deciding from an enforcement perspective, and an informational perspective. They know they understand that calculated risk. So yes, it's, at the end of the day, China needs us. We need China economically, right? I don't know about much politically.
All my cameras come from there. All my DJI stuff too,
So it's, yes, there are going to be bilateral irritants. Right, some larger than others. The Taiwan question is a mega bilateral irritant between our two nations. But it's going to be okay. At least in 2026, we're going to be fine.
All right. Well, that is comforting, actually. So coming out of that conversation, I think it's a good transition into the deep and the dark web, and that's where we use you guys a lot. Is to kind of find out what's going on in those places for our company. I think a lot of companies do use you guys for that. Like, what is happening? I mean, obviously we use you guys for like making sure that our trademarks are protected and those sorts of things, that people aren't impersonating us, which I love. I adore that. But for me, on what I do with my day job, the deep and dark web stuff is super interesting. So tell us a little bit about what you guys are seeing in the trends in the deep and dark web.
So it's a fascinating and dynamic environment in the deep and dark web. So in 2025, looking back, we saw law enforcement across Europe and North America become very aggressive in enforcement around a handful of high-profile deep and dark web marketplaces and forums. Right, they're very aggressive in their takedowns of these forums. They were also aggressive in some arrests were made. It's a strange thing. So despite the gains that were made in 2025 on the good guy side, on the law enforcement side, in terms of enforcement and arrests, 2026 we're gonna see new and interesting things pop up. The deep and dark web is going to continue to be a hub for these places, a gathering place for like-minded individuals or curious dilettantes to come gather, share information, share their skill sets. We're also seeing that in light of some of these law enforcement actions, a continued migration, because it's always kind of been there, a continued migration to other platforms as a backup, or maybe a concurrent, like Telegram or Signal or WhatsApp, or even this Session. There's this thing called Session that's popular in Latin America. So there are movements to go and like set up a shop window on these encrypted chat apps. And so, that's going to probably expand in 2026, the use of those things. But, the degradation of trust is real, right? So there's always another thing to keep in mind about the deep and dark web is they love intrigue and drama, right? Intrigue and drama serve so many purposes, right? One, it keeps law enforcement and researchers kind of guessing all the time, like what's true, what's not true. So it's intentionally noisy, silly, irreverent, uncouth, for a reason, right? Because sensible people go down there and like, oh, there are too many your mom jokes, right? Like, oh, it's gross. Like they say bad racial things, right? And so like sensible people, it's like, hello, welcome to the internet. Like this is, it's the internet of the 90s when you go down there. It's like,
I was saying that I was like, I feel like that's what it used to be. And then it went away from that. And now it's there.
It's there again. I heard, I mean, I never did anything like that. It's just what I've heard.
Exactly. Never been in an AOL chat room.
Never. God, AOL, that was wonderful. Well, my Netscape Navigator.
Oh, hell
which
yeah.
I miss, by the way. I loved Netscape Navigator.
It was light. It was light. It didn't have all the crap on it. It just browsed. And 16 colors was all you needed in this world. It was a good time.
It was a great time, man. What a waste. What a sad thing. But anyway, so yeah, you go down there. It's noisy. It's silly. It's awful. But look, like it's got its own little government. It's got its own system of governance, and but yeah, trust is eroding in some parts because you'll go to, because they do their own mis and disinformation campaigns against each other, right? You know, and so you go to the authorized web, and it's like you go to the forum and it's just nonsense. It's silliness. It's nonsense. Accusations are flying, and then you go to the Telegram channel that's supposed to be the real authorized version of the Telegram channel. They're saying the opposite and making counter accusations, and so it's a weird, murky place. But that's why exists Telegram and everything, is to keep us guessing and to try to make sense of things. And so it's a complicated environment, but it's not going away. It's still the place to go to browse, and all the storefronts for stolen credentials, stolen items, and to flex your reputation in the hacker community.
So we every year at the end of the year, I do like a recap with a couple of guys that are in the fraud space. Just recorded one yesterday, but it's not as entertaining. But one of the years we did a quiz on trying to guess what people are meaning when they on Telegram. So we would take like a quote and try and figure out what they were really like meaning. Like, you know, when they're saying like, I have these fresh like bins and all that stuff, but they say it all super weird and like busies and stuff. Got hot busies, and what does that mean? And like, we nailed that one. It's a business accounts, you know.
Wow, nice.
But it was a lot of fun on that. One of the things that you said was like the police joining these forums, because we all know that they do that, and that's what happens. And I believe like they have what do they call initial access brokers, right?
Yes.
Is that a term on there? And they are becoming aware that law enforcement is all over their shit. And you guys in the report are talking a little bit about how like you're seeing like some more, they're adapting to like new security, like basically they're doing fraud prevention on their own stuff at the end of the day. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So initial access brokers are a fascinating like subculture in the deep and dark web. Some of them are hands on keyboard.
I'd never heard of this till your report, by the way. Like this was all new to me.
Yeah. So some of them are hands-on keyboard specialists, right? And so they're just like, you know, these like very eccentric people who just like get a bunch of accesses, really don't know what they have. And so they're like, hey, I've got this, I've got these like network accesses to these probable companies, whatever. Do you want it? Yes or no, take it or leave it, right? Others are trusted friends of the hands-on keyboard savants. Right. So they're more people oriented, but yes. So a lot of the times when these initial access brokers are approached, you know, the default is skepticism, because there are a lot of hotshot law enforcement rookies down there who are like, hey, can you sell me some marijuana cigarettes? You know? And it's like, okay, law enforcement. Right. So, and they also have guides on how to spot researchers, guides on how to spot, you know, law enforcement, the questions they ask, what they can't do. You know, like here's what to ask them to out them and stuff like that, right? And so it's an interesting thing. So yes, they're creating playbooks, they're creating SOPs, just like we do in our real lives when we're faced with like hiccups or misses, right? It's like, oh shoot, I fell for it. Now I'm in jail. We will adapt our SOPs. You know, so yes, it's happening. And so a lot of the times when they're approached, it's going to be who do you know? Like basically, who can vouch for you? They are using, you know, like spy
They're using
tech.
fraud prevention on their own.
We'll call it fraud prevention, spy tech, fraud prevention. Absolutely.
That's fascinating to me. It's so funny that like even the fraudsters have to protect themselves from fraudsters.
They do?
In that case would be cops on that one. And I think, what comes out of a lot of the initial access brokers, the last section that we really have here on this is ransomware. Oof. And what you guys are seeing, because I thought we were getting better at ransomware, but you guys say the world is getting more ransomwared. And I have some numbers in here. So I'm going to say them before I let you turn it over to you. But basically, in 2025, you guys identified 533 incidents a month compared to 388 incidents a month in 2024, with March being the highest at 754. I wonder if that's anything related to tax season at all. And the U.S. makes up 64% of the targets. So fascinating, a lot of numbers in there. Yeah. But can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's dive into that for a second. And so I'm gonna overshare here. So
please do.
So the increase in numbers, in our opinion, behind the scenes, right before we. So here's what happened. Here are the discussions that happened behind the scenes before we went to print. Right, we have these discussions about so yes, numbers wise, 100%, we are observing a lot more named and shamed victims than we ever have. Okay, why is that? One, North Americans aren't paying as much.
Interesting.
Right? So people make a business decision not to pay. And so if you don't pay, you're named. Okay. And so the increase could be, right, that victims are choosing not to pay. More victims are choosing not to pay. Secondly, this is also, it can't be overstated or understated. So I want to say this very carefully. Ransomware is a tool of nation states. Why? Ransomware embarrasses major brands. So Russia oftentimes views us the same way as being motivated the same way that they are motivated, right? So they actually think we're the same. We're just better at the humanitarian aid part of it, right? So they believe that our humanitarian side of our government is actually an imperial side of the government, like they are. But we in America decided, that's actually a softer way to make to achieve influence for the sake of power. Well, it is. And it is. Number one, it is. Yeah. But also, like Americans, North Americans, let's be honest, a lot of that money doesn't come back to us, right? Like it goes and gets dispersed to a country, and we really don't require accountability. So we are a giving people and a giving government.
And despite all of our differences, I do think that Americans, there's still that fundamental idea that Americans, and all that we really do, we mean well.
All the time. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I've long thought that. It's we get up at I'll use the United Nations as an example. We get up in the United Nations and do the best we can. Yeah. Right? We're let's just go over there and freaking overwhelm them with butter, or blankets.
That's good shit. Butter's good shit.
American butter is awesome, right? Yeah. Let's do it, right? So we get up there and we take on a certain leadership mantle that so it's easy when you're not making the decisions to sit back and critique them well, so they don't have that burden, right? Other countries don't have the burden.
Excellent way to put that.
Yeah.
An absolutely excellent way to put that.
But you're right. No matter which president, which administration, which political leader is up there, we're just we always mean well. It's just our execution. But we always mean well, and we're not afraid to lead out on it, on a problem. Let's give them medicine. Let's give them well water. Let's give them troops, the oil, something let's just do something.
We ain't giving them no oil.
That's ours. That's ours. But you know what I mean, right? And so I think that's an excellent point. And so they mirror that. They mirror their own intentions. They put them on us. What I mean by that is, in other countries, they have something called national champion. I'm using their terminology. I'm using a Russian term, it's a national champion, right? So Acme Corporation of America, right? Let's just say that was a major bank. Acme Bank is a major bank, right? A Russian intelligence officer or a Chinese intelligence officer or an Iranian intelligence officer would look at Acme Bank of America and go, boy, if we embarrass them, that would undermine the confidence in a national champion, right? Where Americans are like, well, we already don't lie. We already don't trust like banks and the government, and like, we don't trust anyone. This is so it's an interesting. So ransomware is a tool that is deployed, whether or not the person sitting down at the keyboard wears a badge that says Intel officer, or they're co-opted, or they're unknowingly co-opted, right, by an intelligence service. They sit, or maybe they're a true believer. Maybe they're a zealous patriot and they don't have to be asked. Maybe they're just like, I got you, wink, wink, right? And so they go out, and ransomware is a pressure tactic. It does two things. It seeks to embarrass a nation, right? It seeks to, and it also is a great way to get data to put into their big, bad, evil machines in their operations against to turn back around against us, right? So ransomware serves a lot of purposes, and you can make some money, right? Because some people pay, and it's legal. People do, and it's legal to pay in the United States. The Department of Justice allows you to pay a ransom if it's not a sanctioned person or entity, right? And so,
oh shit,
yeah. So you can, and interestingly, right? I'm not making a judgment here. Interestingly, because people come to us all the time. Adam, should we pay? Should we not pay? Should we pay? Should we not pay? I'm like, are you a hospital with life-saving equipment that's offline? You think I'm going to give you a hard time for paying a ransom to help turn your electricity back on to save like sick people and babies and mommies and daddies? Like, come on, man, turn on the lights, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is it tax deductible too? I have a feeling it would be.
Maybe it will be soon. I don't know if it was, but it might be.
Was it in the BBB?
It could have been. It might be now. I don't know. Look. But yeah, so ransomware is tricky. It's an interesting tool at a criminal's disposal, at a nation state's disposal, to pressure, to embarrass, and also make some money, and also enrich your targeting deck, right? You get all this great information, this great intelligence about people, things, places, and so you can then take that data, enrich it, and like take it in a lot of different directions to gain influence or power over like a potential target, right? So it's a fascinating place for criminals, for researchers, for nation states to go play, and like, going to the like real negative side of things. It's also a very dangerous game to play because of kind of like this very strange movement to harm people that you view like harm a business person in a physical way or their family because you think they did something wrong to you. So instead of writing a strongly worded letter about the brand, right, you are now entering a physical violence realm that for some reason has now become in vogue, right, to commit violence against people that you feel are betraying something or some community, right? And so the data from this can also be abused by people who want to cause physical harm against a brand, right? And so they single out an executive or some kind of person associated, VIP associated with that brand. And so it's a very, very dangerous game, ransomware.
So wrapping up here, because we are running out of time, we have just scratched the surface of your guys' report. So again, this report is available. It's on your guys' website. So where should they go to find this report right now?
Let's go to ZeroFox. Just go to ZeroFox.com. ZeroFox.com. Yeah, check it out.
I will put a QR code on the screen, everybody, that will give you direct access to that. I will have popped it up probably a couple other times throughout this. For anybody that's just listening to this, like on Apple or Spotify or something like that, the link will be in the description to their website. I will also link Adam, so you could go and just add him all day long on LinkedIn and then ask him all your cybersecurity questions and all your geopolitical questions, because he sure is happy to do that. Absolutely. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you lending it. This was a lot of fun to prepare this thing, and thank you guys for giving me this report so I could prepare this. And thanks for taking me down this whole report and all the cool things. ZeroFox, everybody, is an awesome product. I actually really get a lot of value out of it. And I think any enterprise business that has any brand protection or is curious what is going on with their business should definitely give them a call and find out what's actually happening that you might not know about, because it's probably a little more than you really realize. So Adam Darrah, again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
I had a blast, Jordan. Thank you so much for thinking of us.
Absolutely. We'll do it again sometime.
I'll hold you to that.